bio fans, Anya here from the Biography Wrap, and today we are going to explore the life of Howard Hughes through the movie The Aviator, directed by Martin Scorsese. The story begins in 1913 when Howard gets a bath from his mother. She teaches him about quarantine. She also warns him of his safety in the outside world. The scene shifts to 1927, where Howard prepares for the commencing of his movie, Hell's Angels. He recruits Noah Dietrich to manage his parents' company, Hughes Tool Co., making drill bits back in Houston. He is very peculiar about shooting his film authentically. He invests a lot of money and effort into making it realistic. He shoots the epic dogfight climax himself. In 1929, after watching a movie with sound, Howard decides to reshoot and edit the entire picture with sound. The aeroplane bombings, the war cries, the whole 25 miles of reel to be edited with sound. He informs Noah that it will cost $1.7 million. Noah tells him that people in Houston are worried about his expenses. The movie turns out to be a gigantic success with its editing and flawless cinematography. While making his movie, Howard becomes passionate about aviation. He directs Scarface, which becomes a controversial hit. His mechanic and engineer Odie help him design airplanes. He tells him to smooth out the rivets more on the H-1 plane. Howard gets interested in an airline called TWA and decides to buy it. He wishes to make commercial traveling with airplanes safe and adventurous for everyone. After his success, he starts wooing an actress named Katharine Hepburn. They start dating and play a round of golf. She visits his usual nightclub with him, where some of his friends discuss carnality in a new Western-style movie called The Outlaw. He gets uncomfortable when Errol, an actor, takes some food off of his plate. He takes Katharine aboard an airplane, where he teaches her how to fly an aircraft. Eventually, they fall in love and move in together. In September of 1935, Howard finishes his project, the H-1. He flies it to clock the fastest speed by a person. Even though the H-1 crashes in the beat field, he manages the speed of 352 miles per hour. A few years later, Howard travels around the world in 4 days. He breaks all previous records with his airplane called Lockheed. Howard gets upset by Katie's family's behaviors as they do not respect a working-class man. He is also flustered by their arrogance and the family dog. He asks Katharine not to behave differently around her family. After he buys the TWA, his aviation interests magnifies. He proposes a plane of magnanimous metrics to his team, a giant plane of 200 feet capable of carrying everything for the Army, called the Hercules. Howard places an order for planes worth $18 million. These 40 planes, called the Constellations, would make up the TWA fleet of domestic and international airline carriers. Howard's media presence is highlighted by his company of various divas and actresses. Howard often displays discomfort and obsessive behaviors with cleanliness. The censor board reprimands Howard over the sensual scenes in The Outlaw. Howard points out various other movies which were permitted by the board. Katharine gets bothered by his behavior and eccentric nature, and she finds peace with her co-star Spencer. She breaks up with him. He gets triggered by her decision and burns all of his clothes. His dating interests peak again when he comes across Faith Domergue. Howard arranges a display party for the U.S. Air Force to showcase his two designs, the XF-11 spy plane and the Hercules. He makes sure that all the officers are entertained in various ways. Juan Treep tries to learn of Howard's expansion plans when he happens by his dinner with Miss Domrig and his friend Jack. Howard talks of crossing the Atlantic. Jack gets agitated as Howard just gave out their entire post-war expansion strategy. He washes his hands so hard that his skin cuts and spills blood. Senator Owen Brewster tells Juan about Howard's contributions to Congress and tells him that the TWA is serious about international expansion. Howard asks a journalist to quash a fornication story about Katharine. He pursues another girl named Ava Gardner. Faith rams her car into Howard's when he goes out with Ava. Howard gets informed of Senator Owen's plans to monopolize international travel and allow Pan Am to fly internationally. He gets furious and asks his teams to buy senators, spy on Owen, and do anything to stop Owen's bill while he continues to manufacture Hercules. He gets weirded out by a janitor and starts repeating the phrase, "Show me all your blueprints." On July 7th, 1946, Howard gets into his spy plane XF-11 to test it for the military. Odie gives him instructions and he successfully lifts off. But his engine malfunctions, leading to a horrible crash in Beverly Hills. Doctors explain to Noah that Howard had terrible injuries at the hospital. Howard gets conscious and learns that the military has canceled their contract for Hercules. Noah tells him that his fleet of planes have been grounded by the Aeronautics Board for a crash. After being discharged, Noah tells him that he might be bankrupt by his tanking airlines or his giant plane Hercules. He plants microphones under Ava's bed and gets overly protective of her. Ava lashes out at him and shouts at him to leave. Hughes' production gets raided by the FBI on the orders of Senator Owen. Howard feels overwhelmed by his invasion. On February 12, 1947, a meeting commences between Howard and Senator Owen. Owen exclaims that his investigation have dug up a lot of dirt on him. He proposes that Howard should support his CAB bill, and he would not hold a public hearing to embarrass himself. He also told him to sell TWA to Pan Am. Howard locks himself in his theater. He gets paranoid and depressed. He stays naked. Katharine thanks him for his deed, but he doesn't face her. Juan comes to the theater to meet with Howard. He shares information on their stocks, but Howard is unwilling to sell the TWA. Juan tells him that the hearing will cost him. His spy plane and Hercules cost the government $56 million. Juan warns him of going bankrupt and how the world will see his eccentricities. Howard gets panicked and goes through a tough time. He gets out of his theater and makes his house germ-free. Ava visits him and sees that the whole place is trashed and full of tissues. She shaves him and asks him about the hearings in Washington. He confesses to her that he sees things. She helps him get over his germ phobia. Howard arrives at the hearing scheduled for August 6, 1947. The bright lights of the court bother Howard as he gets sworn in. Howard prepares to deliver his statement. He delivers a strong stance on his views about the biased Senator Owen and his relationship with Juan Tripp. Senator Owen blames him for bribing the Air Force. Howard tells him that there is no law declaring that entertaining Army officials is a crime and accuses Owen of being biased against him and propagating the CAB bill written by Pan Am executives. He accuses him of colluding with Juan. The huge plane Hercules is placed on the sea. The news reporter explains the details of the craft. Howard welcomes his passengers and fires up the mammoth plane. The 8-engine plane starts as Odie and Hughes coordinate to fly it. The movie switches back to the hearing. Owen asks Howard to promise to deliver 11 XF-11 planes and a Hercules, for which he got $56 million from the U.S. government. Howard agrees that he did not deliver the aircraft, but they should take the World War into perspective. Other agencies like Lockheed, Boeing did not deliver planes worth $800 million. He informs them he does not appreciate being called an eccentric liar when only TWA is being investigated. He explains that Hercules is the largest plane ever built, as long as 5 stories buildings and a wingspan more than a football field. He promises to leave the country if Hercules doesn't fly. He gets tired of the bickering and walks out of the hearing. The people and the press celebrate and shake his hand as he exits. Juan Tripp tells his office members that the bill will be defeated. He says TWA will begin national and international flights soon enough. The Hercules picks up speed as it rattles and shakes. It reaches 75 knots and takes off the water, and the crew celebrates the lift. He tells the press that a technology like this will pave the way for future after he lands back down. He asks Ava if she would like to fly to Paris with him. He pitches jet airplanes to Noah and Odie. Howard gets paranoid about seeing a few gloved gentlemen and starts reciting the phrase, "the way of the future." Noah takes him inside a washroom and tells Odie to overlook the door. Howard paces the floor as he keeps reciting it. He sees a flashback in the bathroom mirrors of his childhood. Howard looks at himself and keeps saying, "the way of the future." That's it from the movie The Aviator. If you enjoyed it, do consider subscribing. Let me know what you think of this true story, and make sure to check out this next one.